Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this session of the Data Doctor. This is a topic that I wanted to do for quite a while, and to be honest with you, I had a lot of difficulty putting together a presentation that made sense. We're going to talk about include and exclude statements. They're the other two types of LOD expressions, and I always got confused using them, and I hope this helps you in understanding how to use include and exclude. Let's start first by taking a look at where these statements are executed in the order of operation. Just a quick review, the order of operation is the sequence that Tableau goes through every time you create a worksheet. Include and exclude are done down here in step 7 of the order of operation. Now they're an LOD, but they're not the same as fixed LODs. Fixed LODs are executed up here in step 4 of the order of operation, and that's in that steps 3, 4, and 5 where the data table for your individual worksheet is being structured. And that's where fixed LODs take place. Include and exclude are down here in step 7, and it's in the steps 6 through 10 that we're no longer working with the structure of the data table, we're working with the values that are in the data table. So include and exclude pertain to the values that are in the data table, and literally include refers to data that's in the detail table, but not necessarily in the summary table or the table that you see. Exclude pertains to data that is in the summary table that you don't really want to use in your analysis. Let's start. We're gonna use the same data set virtually for the entire presentation today, and it's just a very simple data set. I've got two customers, and they've got product categories, beverages and food, and each product category has product groups, and there's two product groups in each category, and then there's products and their sales against those products. Now, I want to start by taking a look at the fixed LOD and the include LOD and see how they differ. Let's go here, and we're going to open this up, and this is just very simple. This is fixed at the product group level, the sum of the unit sales. Okay, and we're going to look at the product category. Product category is here. It's in a hierarchy with product group and with product. And then the include statement is the same as the fixed statement, except we're going to use include. Okay, and that's include at the product group level. And you can see here, when we take a look at the product category, I've included the total sales. This is just summing the sales, aggregating sales as we bring it to the board. The fixed LOD and the include, and at the product category level, they're all the same. If I go down to the product group level, we now see that, oh, we fixed at the product group level, so these values make sense to us. We include at the product group level, and those values are the same as the fixed LOD, and they are also the same as just the unit sales. Now we're going to go one more level lower, and now we start seeing a difference. Okay, the fixed LOD is fixed at the product group level, so we expect to see the value of 14 and 36. The include statement is now looking at the product group level and saying, wait a minute, I want to see the detail below the product group level. So it's the same as the unit sales. Okay, and 12 plus 2 equals 14, and these values total to be 36. Well, you start looking at this and you're saying, well, wait a minute, is the include statement just like using a summation, just a simple aggregation of unit sales? Well, not really. And we're going to take a look at what happens when we use the sum as the aggregating factor on the fixed LOD and the include LOD. And then we're going to take a look at the average, and we're going to see how these change. To that last group, I added in the count of the individual records. And I'm going to go over here to this sheet here, and I want to take a look at the average first, just using unit sales. These are the number of records associated with those sales, and this is the average. So we take 30 and divide it by 3, and you get 10. Now we take a look at the fixed LOD, and we saw before that the fixed LOD for beverage is going to total 50, and there's two records. there's hot beverages, cold beverages, and I divide by 2 and I get a value of 25. Okay. And we can take this one additional level and we can go down to the average at the product level and we can start seeing differences show up here. And I think maybe the easiest way to see this is if we look at this summary table. Now, I wanted to look at these averages and you say, well, why would anybody do this in a business sense? Well, I spent a lot of years as a product manager. And one of the things that product managers do is we like to take a look at what our average sales are. We like to look at them at a lot of different levels. But I wanted to just take a look at my entire product line. I wanted to say, well, what's my average sales per SKU or per item that we sell? That would be the simple average. We could take a look at the beverage. We sell 30 units. I've got 3 different SKUs. I can sell 10 per SKU. And I've got 76 in the food category, and there's 6 different types of food, or 12.7 would be the average for food sold through Big Mart. At the fixed level, now we're looking at the total beverages. We've already added in and mixed in both the mega grocery and the Big Mart sales. So now we take a look at that level, and that would be, well, wait, I got 50, and there's still those 2 categories. So at that level, at the beverage level, I'm selling 25 units on average. But if I included the product, and I said, well, I'm interested at the product level, and we can take a real quick look here at the raw data. I'm interested at this product group level. And I want to see what my averages are on a product group level. I now have that 30 that we sell in Big Mart beverages divided by the 2 categories for a total of 15. Now, these become very important numbers if you try to manage a different product line. And it gives, using the include statement, gives me the option as a product manager to look at different levels and determine what my average sales are. We can look at this a slightly different way. And here I'm just looking at the average of the include, and I'm looking at the average unit sales. And I'm just going to throw up here the total sales, the total unit sales. I'm just going to add those in just for reference purposes. Okay. And we can see that we expand this out to include the product group, 12 and 9 and 12 and 18. And take it down to the product level, and you can see where the differences occur. So if I'm a product manager, now I know how I can use this include instruction to look at different levels and get my overall averages. But what other things can you do with this include statement? We very often get a question out on the forum where a user will come in and say, well, I want to put a filter on a dimension. And in the same view, what I really want to do is I want to look at the data filtered, and I want to look at the data that's not filtered. Or in this case, I want to put a filter on product group, but I want to look at it 2 ways. I want to look at it when it's filtered, and I want to look at it when it's not filtered. And usually they've come out and they've said, well, I put this data in context and it doesn't seem to work, and I just don't seem to be able to do that. Well, you can do it, but not the way that the user had anticipated. We can do that with an include statement. And I want to go back to this order of operation, and you'll be able to see it here. If I write an expression that's a fixed LOD, okay, and I apply a filter, a dimension filter on that expression, the dimension filter is applied after the LOD is calculated. The fixed LOD is calculated in step 4 of the order of operation. So it's fixed at that point, and then we apply a dimension filter after, and the LOD or the fixed LOD is not going to be affected by the dimension filter. Users usually say, I want to ignore the filter. I don't ever say that. You decide as a developer when you want to apply the filter. And so here, what we can do is we can write that fixed LOD, and we can apply the dimension filter after we've applied, after we've calculated the LOD. But notice where the include and exclude statement are. They're down here in step 7. And those that include and exclude statement will always be affected by the filter, whether it's a dimension filter or whether the filter is in context. So the correct way to answer this user's problem or this user's question of how to apply a filter on some values that I calculate and not on others is to create a fixed LOD. Once again at the product category level, and then I'm going to do a include statement, and I'm also going to just calculate this percent of total, which is just the value of the include statement divided by the fixed LOD. Okay. Now we know from what we just saw that when I put a filter on the product group and treat it as a dimension filter, this is a blue filter, it's a dimension filter, it's applied after the LOD is calculated. And if I take fruit out, you can see the value here is 104 and 50. And if I take fruit out, the total doesn't change. Okay, this filter is applied after the fixed LOD has been calculated. You can see over here that I'm calculating the percent of total, and that percent of total now totals 100 for the beverage category, and it totals 52.8 because we applied the filter, and the filter does apply to the include statement. Okay, so here we've been able to take this product category and we're able to apply a filter on it, and in some cases the filter is included in the calculation, and in other cases it's not included in the calculation because this is a fixed LOD and this is an include statement. And just to show you that if we did put this into context, right click it, add to context, and we were to put it into context, now the filter is applied before the LOD is calculated, and as a result the total here is 55 for the food category, and the total in the food category would be 100%. But that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted the total to remain constant at 104, and we could see the percent of total from the include statement as a percent of total for all vegetables. Okay. Now, probably the greatest use or the most frequent use that I do of using a include statement is as a replacement for a fixed LOD. I do an awful lot of work where I want to use an LOD expression to create a layer in the data set. Think of your data as a pyramid again. The data that you input is the bottom of that pyramid, and I want to create a layer in the data set at a higher level than the input data, and I want to be able to use that in other calculations. And that's what fixed LODs do. This expression, this is a fixed LOD at the product category, product group, and product level. And what this literally says is take all the combinations of product category, product group, and product, and for those combined points of the permutation of those three values, sum the unit sales and save it so I can use it later in this thing that I call layered fixed. Now, this statement, which is the include statement, will return the same values. It's going to return the same values as our fixed LOD. And we can look at different levels. You can see these values are always the same. Okay. So I can use this include statement, and it's easier to write. I don't have to, and you've probably done this yourself, where you've got a long list of dimensions, and you're taking the combination of each of those. You don't have to do that with an include statement. I just went to the highest level, and I've used the include statement. It's much more elegant. It's much neater. but it also provides an additional advantage. And that advantage is I can add to this hierarchy. I'm just going to pull customer off of there, and you can see these total 100% using a percent of total calculation. And I can just drop customer in here, and I can change that drill down on the fly. I don't have to go back like I would have to in a fixed calculation to change the actual calculation. By having an include statement, I've now included customer in that include statement, and you can see how the totals here change. So the include statement has a lot of uses. You got to be careful how you use it. You have to be careful how you aggregate it when you use it. But the include statement has a lot of uses, and it's probably, I would probably use it about 15% of the time that I write LOD expressions. 80% of the time I'm going to use a fixed calculation. Okay, but maybe about 15% of the time I'm going to use an include statement. Well, if that's the case, what does exclude do? And exclude is used in the other 5% of the time. It's used to exclude the effect of a dimension that's already in the view. And I like to use this example. This is an example where we take a look at a map of the United States and total sales in each state. And I want to also take a look at excluding the state. I say if we don't consider the state dimension and we go to the next higher level in the view above state, which would in our case be region, okay, exclude the state, don't include the state, just exclude it, and sum the sales at the next higher level, which is going to be the region level. Okay, and if we put that, we can now see okay. Okay. Excuse me. I want to bring this guy down in here. And I want to put him in there. We can now see that in each region, we now have the total. Here in the Western region, it's 725,000, and we can calculate that percent of total. Okay. By using an exclude statement, we can calculate the total at the next higher level, which is the region level. And we can divide each state total by the region total to get the percentage for each state. Exclude isn't frequently used. Use it about 5% of the time. It has some values. Include is used about 15% of the time, and you can see that it particularly has some value when you're drilling down into data. And of course, fixed being the most frequently used LOD expressions, used about 80% of the time. That's what I wanted to cover off with you today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it helps you understand a little bit more about include and exclude. It takes some work. You have to practice with it. I've added this workbook. The same workbook can be found out on my Tableau public site. Just go out to my public site and you'll see it out there. I've also written up what we talked about this morning in the form of a blog, and that's out on my blog at jimdehner.com. And if you go out there and look under include and exclude, you'll be able to pull up the entire blog. I hope this was informative today. I hope you enjoyed it, and do practice. That's how you learn